Next, we're going to move along to, and Duke is going to tell us about all the work that he and his organization, 10 Across, is doing on the I-10. Take it away.
Great. So I realize we need to do a little catch up here, so I'm going to move at a very rapid clip. So you can go to the next slide. For this group, you don't need to know where the I-10 is, but next, there's certainly been a long history of movement across the country, certainly in a transcontinental way relative to this discussion. Next. The reason we're interested in this corridor has a lot to do with what you heard Dan Walters say, or you can see that Dan Walters was saying after the fire under the 10 in November, right before our 10 Across Summit in LA, what he was suggesting is that the 10 is unique in this country. And I think for the following reasons. If you go to the next slide, this is where people are moving. San Antonio, Phoenix, Houston, Jacksonville. The country is moving towards the 10. Next. In spite of the fact that there might be a lot of reasons not to. This is also where you are seeing fire, drought, and other extreme storms on a more regular basis. This is the dichotomy of the 10 or the 10 quarter. Next. It's also a place where you see a divergence of access to resources, a lot of it urban-rural divide, so you see disparities in income and other things. Next. It's also a place of great demographic change, more than anywhere else in the country, certainly the case out where I am in Phoenix in the desert Southwest. And finally, next, again, from a Phoenix perspective, you know that climate change, and several people have already referenced this, is for real. It's never going to get cooler, and the implications for heat on the 10 are profound. Next. So you all understand the origins of the interstate system, maybe the last time we really thought holistically and in a cooperative way at the federal level to look at the country as a whole with regard to infrastructure. Next. And the 10 is obviously part of that, but we would suggest its importance is that it runs through the critical issues of our time, all of the highways mentioned today, all of the interstates mentioned today too, but ours seems to run through the most extreme conditions. Next. We reduced the idea of the 10, and we're demonstrating how to use these systems as connectors. Many people of you have mentioned that word, and how to leverage the idea of these corridors to talk to each other about critical issues like the ones you see here. Next. So our thesis would be that if you want to see the future of the United States, you couldn't do better than the I-10 corridor. It's where water, the energy transition, immigration, global trade, and we're not unaware that we've got Texas, California, and Florida in the mix, the 3 largest states, along with others. This is where you can see a knowable future. Next. So what have we done with that? Next, we have built a curriculum around the issues and place intersections along this corridor. The next slide, the issues I just mentioned are on the left, the critical issues to the future of the country. And we've used the 12 largest metro areas along the 10 as the backdrop for each of these issues. So if you go to the next slide, you see this curriculum laid out. It's all done in Esri story maps. Anybody on this call could take this course for $25. It's oversubscribed here at this university. We're about to build a network of honors colleges across the 10 to take this course. But what it does is introduce students to places they've probably never visited, issues that are clearly on their minds, and also employment and or college opportunities that you might not have considered. Next. We also have a considerable communications aspect that goes with all of this project. Next. We have, there you go, my podcast. There'll be another release tomorrow. We do this on an almost weekly basis. We take in issues about highways, as well as the issues I've previously mentioned around water and energy, socioeconomic issues that intersect with roadways and other things like that. Next. We interview the people you would expect us to. We've been friendly with all the mayors on the 10, some of whom are now out of office as they've rolled over. We're in direct contact with Mayor Landrieu right now. I lived 10 years of my life in New Orleans, and his father was the mayor at the time. So speaking about infrastructure, cities, cultural issues of real interest to us. Next. And then we have a relationship with American public media. We publish stories on a very regular basis that involve the geography of the 10, the issues that can be found there, and the data that confirms that the issues we're describing are backed up by facts. Next. And lastly, next, we're building the capacity to understand what's happening here. For example, one of the networks which exemplifies how to use a corridor, I think, effectively, is the network of chief resilience officers that we have put together here. You can see all of them across the 10. Next. And we meet with them on a regular basis, monthly, to talk about the issues that they are observing in their communities, the impacts of roadways in their communities, but other matters like heat, housing, you name it, all connected. And I think several of you mentioned there's nothing like getting together to really share ideas the way we do with this group. Next. I'll conclude by saying, moving forward, next, we are building an ecosystem around education, around communications, around applied projects, public sector, private sector partners, you name it. Next. We are working with philanthropists to help us get our students or to get other professionals out on the road and actually witness what's going on in this country. Next. We're working with a filmmaker because obviously with the 12 cities, this lends itself to a very nice west to east narrative in 12 parts, talking to PBS about how we can introduce people to what we believe is the future of the country by traveling this corridor. Next. And finally, we hold major events. You can see some of the cities where we've already done that. Next. To speak to all these issues, our next one, should anyone be interested, will be in 2025, March 5 through 7, the next 10 Across Summit, where we bring people together who can talk about these major issues and why they are all on the same street, and therefore talking together is of mutual benefit. Thank you.